behavior settings, if we want to change any behavior, so that the interventions should directly impact the target. So we need to grab the attention in such a way that the brain and the body of our target would change. So we first do the essence. So if we want to change behavior, so we want to bring in the surprise element. So that they start perceiving that okay, this change is giving some additional benefit, and at the later stage we will have to see how the behaviors are perceived and practiced.
And when we are asking people,
so in this framework we use methodology courses called ABCDE. So in A it's access, where we assess all known and unknown factors of the behavior which is currently being practiced and which behavior we want to be practiced. Then in the field we do the formative research and understand what additional information are required in order to strengthen that behavior. Then after understanding the values, behaviors and everything, so then we start developing this document. Then when we implement that in terms of delivery, then we continue the cycle. So just to put it in very short, it's A, B, C, D, E, access, build, create, deliver.
All the systems.
So in terms of activities, so we first do the baseline study. So from the baseline study, certain behaviors will be identified. So household level or school or healthcare facilities, so certain behaviors will be identified. And with the city officials, we sit together and prioritize certain behaviors and bring a formative research for those particular behaviors which are identified by the multi-stakeholder platform.
So they have paying record
Then once this
200 editing services.
after the formative research and formulation of the BCC strategy task force, among the multi-stakeholder platform, we first identify who are responsible for awareness campaign and BCC activities among different institutions within the multi-stakeholder platform. So from that group, we will form a BCC technical task force. Then the strategy is developed. After the strategy is developed, certain interventions are formulated in terms of designing of the campaign. Then once the campaigns are designed, when we say designing of the campaign, once the priority behaviors are identified, we then look into detail in terms of whether all other target groups, maybe for the same way for different target groups, the enablers and the barriers could be different. So once we have the BCC strategy then, and the campaign, then we have to start the socialization of those campaigns. Then when we do the awareness campaign, after a certain period of time, at least 6 to 9 months, we do the effectiveness study and we bring the information back into the loop and start again looking into the strategy, what we have learned. So the key achievement, as I said, like since we involve the multi-stakeholder platform and among them whoever are the duty bearers or responsible for certain awareness, communication aspects from different departments and different institutions. So we bring them and we have seen that once we involve everyone, so there's an increased knowledge and attitude. Knowledge, attitude and motivation of the scientists, which we said, including the local government department,
warranty
we've seen that, I mean, very specific campaign based on specific behavior for targeted campaigns are formulated. Then, once these targeted campaigns are conducted, so there's an increase in different type of behavior services. But what we have seen was the fluctuation in behavior during before COVID, during COVID and after COVID. So we have the baseline and midline and endline. So baseline was before COVID. During the midline, the analyzing behavior went up, and during the endline after 2 years it again came back. So those type of issues also we found. So we involved this multi-stakeholder platform together with the task force. We've seen that the local government authorities, they understood about the payment-centered approach, and we feel that there is a sense of ownership among the local authorities for the campaign. Now the key challenges, one is first, the formalization of the task force itself it is a challenge because most of the people take that as an additional burden rather than their regular work. Then the BCC design, like in terms of BCC intervention, design is considered as very resource intensive, both in terms of finance and also in terms of time, and we need a certain specific skills in order to conduct the formative research and all. And there was also the issue, we've seen that the engineers have been involved in designing the BCC events, so those type of issues are there in the local authority. And for the local authority, there's very less investment taken for the awareness campaigns or in terms of investing time in order to understand the details of these behaviors. And monitoring, there's lack of monitoring, or there's ineffective monitoring for the slow adoption of these different behaviors, and acceptance of the community to. This was a very specific case regarding municipal housing management, but there is kind of like in the community still, some of the people they don't want to discuss about this.
Social and digital
takeaways, so involvement of local government authority, multi-stakeholder platform, it helps in formative research and strategic development, but I mean it increases the ownership. It increases the ownership of the campaign and also in the analytical thinking. So I mean it's a different group of people coming together and discussing about what needs to be changed in the behavior. It has supported in increasing the ownership, and new and disruptive behavior change to attract more attention and have more level of positive influence. And the last key takeaway is that overarching campaign ban allows for future expansion and new behaviors and messages.
And so that was kind of
so I will stop it. It's just to wrap up. I mean, Ramo products we have been using the behavior-centered design approach, where we use the ABCD in terms of both rural and urban products. So based on the findings from the baseline, once the behaviors are identified, then we
so this is kind of after the basic they are providing the services.
And
So, and in terms of the
which stakeholders are involved in the
coordinator outreach, we also found that, and also in the
So in each of the country there are different water and sanitation committees,
from the security
So,
30%.
coordination committees, like in Bangladesh there is water and sanitation coordination committee at national level, the district level and even at the city level. And I think in Bangladesh, in Nepal, we even have the lowest administrative block, ward level. So that level of detail we use. But in some of the countries where the responsibility of ensuring the services is the utility, so we bring in the department, different department of the utility as well, not limiting the local. But when we talk about what you say for the platform, at the city level, there's local government authority, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Housing, depending upon what the cities need, and we do stakeholder and institutional analysis before entering into the city, national and city level, just to identify who are responsible for each mode of the service, whether it's water supply or sanitation. Suppose if we are designing BCC selection for sanitation, so for the sanitation services, starting from the containment, so we take containment as a block. So who is responsible for ensuring the standard of the containment? So building a building of then who constructs the containment, so masons. So those groups, we try to bring as more people as possible. But in this case, I mean, there should be one facilitator. So till now, recently, our expert group from external consultant have been supporting in order to facilitate.
I'm just looking at question one. I'm wondering some strategies, because awareness raising is, I think, like the low-hanging fruit that often people check the box and say they need BCC. But I'm wondering how you can get into actual behavior strategies.
Or kind of a milestone.
One is like, let's say,
In this case, actually, it is a business.
awareness campaign. In the city has been doing different type of awareness campaign. So they have this solid waste, don't throw solid waste here and there and all those things. So when we go and talk to the city official, that we want to do a formal research in order to design a campaign. First they will say, why you do that? We all know. If people don't know that, then it should not be we won't pollute ourselves. But it takes some time in order to get the confidence of these different stakeholders. Why do we need to understand why people are doing what they are doing? That is why the current status and as a group, what behavior
Just on that very point,
those who might say why people are doing this, what could be done in order to change this. Like one example would be the emptying. I can this example in terms of emptying of the container. So people are saying like, I mean, it's not affordable. One aspect is regarding affordability. Another issue is regarding accessibility of the service. So now, in that particular affordability, then we do the formal evaluation, one of the barriers like they have to pay for the
so that actually brings me to the question.
So what can be done in order to reduce that? So if you can split that in a three years payment program,
Because I think the
$1,000 plus they have to pay at once. But if we can bring it down to per month, it also kind of like increase the access and also affordability.
From the very beginning,
Can you say a bit more about the new and disruptive policy? Maybe with some examples. So if one of your key findings was that you need to kind of shock people into noticing it, how did you go about doing that?
Again, taking the example of this affordable, people have been thinking that,
First initial 1 to 2 years going to that.
But I feel like you guys are just getting into the juice of things, so maybe we just do one round instead of 2 rounds, but it's
Above the line videos.
just one round, and we go into more depth.
Bottom the line video.
so again, in the same issue of affordability. So affordability, everybody thinks that everything service is not affordable, so they will work with the informal entities. But if we can propose that it's affordable if the payment can be scheduled for some period of time.
But if you really want to sustain.
And if we can bring the service there, I mean, it's kind of an reception service. So that's one. And another is,
And from an implementer perspective, I have implemented a number of especially in sanitation.
I'll share an example from one of the
that you're
cities
going to do sanitation
where
and
the mayor was saying now with my sanitation workers going into the
actually
household
that aspect of behavior.
with full-fledged
One thing is actually
I mean, it kind of gives the impression that fire service might not come in. So it's kind of like this, with the entire PP set, the community takes it as a surprise and thinks that, okay, now these guys are being professional. Because earlier they used to have with the sleeper and all, but now with the hat, goggles and all pull over. So those types of surprise elements.
Another partner can be BCC, but you need to work together.
When do this
Really, we work, we do a lot of FSM activities.
Yeah, I don't think there's one point where we say, okay, now full stop. I mean, it should be a continuous cycle. But I mean, at one point, what we have been kind of thinking is like once the city officials do the effectiveness study, like let's say they do the formative research, they implement the campaign, and after a certain period of time, they do the effectiveness study, and if they come back and start allocating the resources and start again tweaking this the entire ABCD process with the feedback. So if the cycle is kind of embedded into the expanded process, and if there are any new behaviors and they start using the approach,
Once the monitoring is
then I think we can say it's
plus this is a matter of your profit. So it is altogether about
monitoring.
because they have
And even
that is kind of a
so
legal
we try to
that they
get into
will
the
remain in the
campaign
business,
that
nobody
was
will start the business, and this is not needed as a informal business. So that is kind
What is your differential price?
So, I mean, when we design the campaign, so we have this campaign objective and the behavior objective.
Is there
So,
different
there will be
prices different to LICs and?
depending on specific to, like, certain, for certain behaviors, specific behaviors depending upon the city. So if you use a radio medium or let's say a courtyard gathering and all, so based on the different mediums, a set of questionnaire after 6 to 9 months. So we go back to the community and check like where did they, I mean, if it's regarding the courtyard, whether they heard about this particular behavior or courtyard meeting or did it hear, so depending upon the different mediums, we keep track. And in terms of impact, so we have an impact where we go
that is very important.
to the household for the household service and check if it's a hand washing station, then in the GMP ladder, if we see there's progress in the GMP ladder, if we talk about sanitation, whether it's increase in safety and sanitation. Because I mean, in our case, we work on a citywide approach. So it's not that we identify 100 households and we work to show the progress. So So we are more focused on developing the capacity of the local authorities so that they can provide the services across the city. So it will be a random sampling process. So from that as well, we can see whether there is any improvement in the impact figure.
And also that includes.
So we have to recommend changing the use of that. Sometimes it's good to bring in an agency to kind of design the work for materials and so on. And I guess my question is whether you would like an agency for that. And then are you, would the local government then need themselves to contract an agency to help them institutionalise that? How does that go? Is that, I don't imagine that's something they do very regularly. So, how would that be?
Yeah, I mean, currently in SMD,
This was kind of a.
since we said like, I mean, BCC recommended can be resource intensive, so we have created a hub. So it's kind of like hub and spoke. So in a hub, we have an expert. So they're external expert as well, like behavioral change expert. So they provide, they take each of the, so that's hub, and on the spoke, we have different countries. And we go together, ABCD steps together, so that there is cross-learning as well. So there's an expert team in support. So, but that is for the initial period, and we are providing that support. So, depending upon the cities, capacity and skills at the city level as well, because in some of the cities, there are social scientists who fix those immediately, easily than the others where they are only engineers and technologists. So in that case, I mean, our intervention it differs in terms of when we can say that it's institutionalized and the support will be required for a certain period of time.
So you just expect the system to take up whatever you decide and then continue to run with that over a period of time, like they wouldn't have to redesign something themselves or bring in a new agency.
It's basically, it's not redesigned. We just facilitate the process.
But you don't hire external agencies. It's internal capacity.
No, I mean, initially, currently we have a ECC hub. So there we have a, so since last 5 years, for 6-7 countries, that expert is providing support. So suppose if we are starting a new country, so the new country team will be supported by that in order and we bring in the earlier experiences from other countries. So we have BCC advisors in most of the countries, so they will bring on the experience and the cross-learning.
So no creative agency. No external creative agency.
In some countries they have hired. In some countries they have hired, but in some countries it's not.
Follow up after the change of personnel or a change of government, right? Like after an election or after personnel change. Like, how do you follow up to see that the new governments are still following this process, or if they need new help, how do you define how to provide it, when you provide it, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a challenge for international organizations, development organizations like us. I mean, we with the organization we work in the local government, we face that challenge every 5 years, the election cycle. So, but what we think is like, if we can start a program immediately after the election, then we get the full.
You still have time?
But that
Still have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay.
So yeah, I mean that we will have to live with the reality. But during that period, we will try to focus on certain let's say positions who are responsible for that. There will be 1 or 2 turnovers, but we also expect that whoever was involved with us in the process will be going to some other cities and that capacity will be utilized. But yeah, that remains as a challenge. Yeah. Yes. I can share one example. Like we followed all these processes and in one of the cities, but they said was like okay, we will use mayor's photo. So we have prepared and just a day before the launch of the campaign, the mayor was and we had printed everything and the mayor was signed. Now, I mean, what do we do with all this material? So then we said, okay, no political figure. Then we use the sports figure, like cricketers for school, and for the youngsters, like in Tanzania, we use road art.
Because in
In Bhutan, like depending upon the country, different modes and movements are taken.
Yeah, so there's already some
So when you look at the role of the community, to what extent communities because the demands just community leaders, but then stakeholders so are they involved in designing their strategy or not?
So in the multi-stakeholder platform, there's representatives. There are representatives from different right-hand organizations and the community representatives. So as a representative, there will be. But yeah.
But even just main users, because often incentive they are represented in 3-4 different organizations and they are a bit above the average of users. So they are just normal plain users of the service.
I mean, if suppose if we are designing something, let's say for special people with disabilities, in that there are different right-holder organizations, there is a group of people with disabilities, so we involve that. But if we are talking about the general people, let's say if you want to do something on the low-income communities, so in the low-income communities, there are groups, there are formal informal groups, so we make sure that their representation is also there so that's also one of the reasons why we are saying it's resource intensive, because we expect it to be very participative, bringing in different people.
Do you think about countries in terms of the messaging, like who needs to change, like do they need to do something either mask or man, or they have different responsibilities and take more actions, and so like how would that reflect in the campaigns and the messaging? So
during the prioritization of the behavior, so let's say a city prioritizes behavior, then we say, okay, you are the target. So that segregation, that pinpointing of the target beneficiary is identified at that level. So whether it's boys, girls, people with disability, whether it's low-income community, whether it's flood-prone areas, so those types of segregation are always identified during the target So in some cases, for one particular behavior, we have identified different target groups, different mode and method has been used for reaching that.
Hello. I'm very sorry to disrupt the conversation. Do you need 2 more minutes?
Yeah.
2 more minutes.
The 2 more minutes?
Okay.
So we want to see that embedded within the Indian city plan, city sanitation or city sanitation. So they have a dedicated intervention activities planned and budgeted for this.
What about the MSc? What about the MSc? Because I think that's also vast resource.
Yeah, so these MSPs are, I mean, it's already altogether level. So in some countries, yeah, big project, they just fall apart. But in some of the countries, they are very active, even if they are not working.
So who pays?
No, I mean, initially they expect let's say TADSA type of thing, but later once they yeah, the participation maybe not full house, but there will be, I mean, they develop their own rules. Like if like 60% of the members are present, then they need to.
There must be something about, in order to institutionalise it, how do you get the incentives right? So
I am
if you're-
so happy to see how committed you are with the discussions. But I'm afraid it is my job to bring you back to plenary. Sorry to interrupt. Please come back to the group. And rapporteurs, prepare to report.
No, I mean, so that the government continues to want to invest in business. So if it was a business and they want to change behaviour so they get more business, there's an automatic incentive to institutionalise it. If it's a government and they just kind of do because somebody's told them they've got to do it, it's harder to institutionalise it. I didn't mean this conference.
And welcome back. I am asking, what am I asking? Niladri, are you ready to report back? Or is it, yeah? Abhilasha, who is reporting from your group? Okay. Niladri is going to report for group 1. Sam, are you reporting for group 2? Ivana? Ivana... She was just here.
Maybe she jumped out.
I think she jumped out.
Okay. Luckily she's group 3. Go ahead.
Thank you, Maria. So I must say our cafe was very, very interactive. We had a good rendezvous. There are 9-10 participants and very, very relevant questions they were asking post our presentation. The first thing was very interesting. Yes, we are talking about behavior change, we are talking about institutionalization, we are talking about the working in the government, because ultimately it has to embed it into the system. But how we managed to change the behavior of the government itself, and how much time it took. To be honest, it took lots of time, because our work started in 2015 and now we can see it is slowly getting into their system. So it was there. Another question is again very relevant and also very difficult to get by in the government system, is that how are you measuring the impact of the behavior change? Because getting them aligned to have a behavior campaign in place is a big thing. I mean, pushing them, aligning them, and now we are asking about you have to go out and measure the impact. So yes, in our case, we are still struggling with the government, but as an institution, we are very keen, because we are also academic institution. We want to understand actually how much impact it has made on the ground. So that we are doing. That was the thing. And also in line with that, there's a very interesting question: how do you know if anything change happened just because of the behavior change campaign? There will be lots of confounding factor. We are also doing capacity building, etc. So it is the effect of capacity building or behavior change. How do you know? So yeah, I mean, there are also lots of stratification when we are targeting our audience in the behavior change. There are citizen out there, government officer, then MTR, then machines. Of course, capacity building, everybody is not under the ambit of the capacity building, definitely certain are. So it is very easy to, or comparatively easier to understand the impact of behavior change when we are dealing with a citizen. Of course, in the government office, lots of confounding factors are there, to be honest. Finance related question was also there, which we clarify. Actually, in Indian context, household level containment toilet construction, it's mostly the onus is with the household owner. Except, and in that relation, that Swachh Bharat Mission thing also came in, and how this campaign, this case study which we presented, how it is linked with the Swachh Bharat, that thing we shared with our audience. And also we take a parallel of another campaign called Malasur in different part, and how Malasur, because ultimately objective is same, because here Kakaman, the word is resonates some more sense in the down south in India, because you know India is a very, very diverse country, so one solution does not fit. Malasur was more appealing on the northern side of the India, whereas Kakaman in the down south Tamil Nadu we did. So this was a very intense discussion among our group. So it was very helpful for us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sam? Good?
So I'll briefly summarise Group 2. I don't know if it's helpful just to, in a few lines, summarise the suite model for the two groups that were not there. So Uttam was talking about the suite model that's being rolled out in cities across Bangladesh, which is essentially a public-private partnership model. It's a lease-based arrangement, and it involves a contractual arrangement between the city corporations and the private sector, and they have access to a vacuum tanker. They have a contractual requirement to serve a percentage of low-income customers. That's a really important feature of the model to incentivise equity, and a tiered or differential pricing mechanism. So the entrepreneurs charge more to middle and high-income customers, and that cross-subsidises lower rates to low-income customers. So Uttam said all of that out, and I think a really interesting takeaway was around, in this first learning question that we had earlier, strategies for bridging the gap between awareness and BCC. I think the engagement of local brand promoters has been really central in the sweep example. Local brand promoters who have understanding of the community, accessibility, can build customer confidence, and a sales strategy is being developed around that. We had some questions on incentives for the private sector to do marketing, and I think included within that, implicitly incentives to market to low-income customers. And so Uttam's response to that is that the profit margins are there, particularly from middle and high-income customers. But it's really the contractual arrangement that creates the incentive for low-income customers, but monitoring is a key aspect of this, so that the percentage of services that are provided to low-income customers needs to be monitored. And that's actually something that we've worked on and has been a challenge. There were other good questions around the tiered pricing model. So how to keep middle income and high income customers from seeing that low income customers are paying less, and is there any sensitivity around that? And Uttam's response to that was really that the focus of our attention, I think, or the partners involved, has been on validating that low income customers are low income customers, and we have a database that responds to that. But I'm not sure, Uttam, if you want to say more about how we actually manage that interface with the middle and high income customers, and yeah, why do the services why are they emptied in the middle of the night? Which again, Uttam, I was out getting water at that point, so you might need to say what your response was to that question. But that was the summary. It was a really good discussion.
Thank you. Ivana?
Am I the
rapporteur?
Assigned rapporteur? Okay, this is perfect. I took some notes, not that well the structure as the other rapporteurs, but I hope I capture some things.
You may want to summarize the case study for the...
I have some notes on which kind of approach and the framework SNB uses. So our support is at the city level, so we work through city plans following a behavioral design approach. And this framework offers guidelines to define a target behavior and identify the determinants of behavior change and outline kind of a TOC through a participatory approach. So this framework uses some steps called the ABCDE. So that's assess, build, create, deliver, and evaluate. Some of the elements of this assessment of these steps are the surprise element. So using BCC strategies, we use a surprise element where the communities literally get surprised by the intervention. So some of these examples was where the emptiers come to the households completely dressed, head to toes, with specific uniforms and kind of astronauts looking like. So I think the households get like, oh well, this is very professional in comparison to what they used to see before, unlike people wearing flip-flops and entering into the house. One of the questions was challenging this change of political leadership and how we can maintain the strategy through these changes in the political leadership. I think that's one of the big challenges that we face, but some of the interventions or the approaches in one of the cases was to use use leaders that are not necessarily in the political field, like use public figures that can help delivering the message, for example, football players or religious leaders that are not that influenced by those political changes. I think that's all the notes I got. Is anyone else wants to add?
That's very good. Our rapporteurs were very effective, and we actually have a bit of time to spare. So I'm opening the floor to the whole group. Anybody who wants to make a comment or on what they heard or on one of the questions, feel free. What do you need? Oh, the mic. Questions or comments? We cracked the answer to these questions. That's very good.
Thank you so much for the very insightful session. I just wanted to know what have been some of the barriers and limitations in ensuring cross-sectoral coordination when it comes to behavioral change and the BCC approach.
Anybody wants to respond to that? Any of the groups? Leaders?
Yeah, maybe I can start.
Yeah.
So, like cross-sectoral, coordination. Like I can give the example, like SWIP, the case actually we presented. It is about providing a mechanical professional desilaging services to different customers. Either he is from this community or a middle income community or a low income community. So basically the city corporation, they are the accountable organization to deliver these services, but they are hiring some private enterprises. They are also one of the important stakeholders. They are jumping into the business and the customers. And of course, at the moment there are no regulators are there, but these three the key stakeholders, and also a number of commissioning agents and the local brand promoters are there who are actually helping the private enterprises to identify the customer, to motivate the customer and to engage with the processes. So from the city authority, they have already set up a steering committee including the representative from the city, as well as the private enterprises, and also the representative from the consumer. They oversee the overall processes, and kind of if there are any challenges, including the tariff issues are there, customers' satisfaction, dissatisfactions are there. So in this way, actually, the different and the overall this brand promotion process actually co-designed by the city authority and the private enterprises, as a technical facilitating agency, WSUP was also there. So this is kind of the steering committee is the right platform to coordinate among the different stakeholders to make sure that whatever the terms and conditions they actually developed before signing this agreement, whether they are complying with that or not. So this is the mechanism we are following. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Any other question or comment? We have two hands up there.
Can I respond to?
Let's hear from those two colleagues. The lady in green and the gentleman next to her.
Well, first of all, thank you for a really interesting session. I was just wondering, so 3 really different case studies, while you've been working on the session development, have you kind of had any insights between the groups? Like Sweep thinking, oh, we need to improve our branding by having a Kakanam, for example. Something like this, like across the cases.
Yeah, question we asked in that group, and I wanted to ask the other one. It's, do you systematically involve users in the process of selecting the behavior and designing the intervention? Because from my experience, as you said earlier, decision makers are always persuaded they know their people and how it works, and from experience, several times they've selected the wrong behavior or behaviors that were not doable.
Give it a go? Yeah.
So let me start from the last question. In our case, the behaviors are identified based on the survey, so household surveys. So it directly comes from the, let's say, the communities itself. First is for the identification of the behaviors. But going back to the other question regarding coordination, so there's a multi-stakeholder platform. So that multi-stakeholder platform is, again, I mean, those have been very active from MDZ era, like ODF. So, I mean, in each of the cities, there is this water and sanitation coordination committee at different tiers. So, let's say city level sanitation coordination committee, ward level sanitation coordination committee, national level. So all those tiers are there. So we rely on those coordination committees and try to see like how can we tap into the existing coordination committees. If they are active, so we work with them. If they are not active, as Uttam said, or Nilatri said, it takes some time to get that coordination committees to deactivate and work into that.
Thank you. You want to add?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's starting off from your question. Her question was something interesting which I think we should talk to each other more after the session to see. Definitely it's a learning, and that's how we sort of came together for this session. So yeah. The design of our campaign also started with the formative research, which included a lot of conversations with households, and not just households, but also with sanitation workers, particularly desludging operators, with masons, with the government also, to understand that what are some behaviors which we have to see, what are some barriers to changing those behaviors, and what are some enablers. So this was sort of the framework we looked at, and the messages sort of came from ground. And not just that, we did a pre-testing to see if people are actually resonating to these messages. And after the pre-testing, there were changes done in the campaign, and again it was piloted. So that was sort of the iterative process we followed. And similar to what Uttam and Rajiv were saying, we also have something called an advisory committee at the state level, So the municipal administration, water supply department, all the directorates and the boards which come under that, we have representatives from them, from IIHS, together in a committee at the state level in which these key decisions are sort of taken, and the campaign as such includes a lot of stakeholders. So.
Thank you. Just to go back to the question from the lady in green. Well, it was the process of coming together for this session. What you saw in this PowerPoint is essentially what we together feel responds to the key challenges and also good practices, for instance, in terms of always looking at the service provision, not taking BCC as a standalone, looking also at the institutional and regulatory embeddedness. So we already brought you what we learned, and then the challenge was, can you push this even further as a group? And I'll hand over to Sam to let us know what have we learned as a collective on top of what we already shared at the beginning. Go ahead, Sam.
Because I had a question, but I'll come to it, because there's one of these questions I don't feel I can answer, so I want to hear perspectives from others in the room. So, yeah, to summarise, I mean, first thing to say is I've learned a lot, because I'm the furthest thing from an expert in BCC. So this has been, really, I think, really rich discussion. There were 3 questions that we posed at the outset. So in terms of what strategies have been successful in bridging the gap between awareness and BCC. So some practical aspects I think have come out. Human-centred design was in the initial presentation, and I think we've heard that built upon, particularly through the use of survey instruments to identify target behaviours, ensure that the behaviours being targeted do actually respond to a real need and the need for formative research in that area. As I mentioned in Group 2, I think the engagement of local brand promoters for customer engagement has been a really effective strategy in the SWEEP case, and also a combination of door-to-door and digital marketing. In terms of what elements are seen as critical to advance the institutional embeddedness of BCC, I think there are a lot of points coming out here. Again, going back to the original presentation, this emphasis on joint plans, co-design with the responsible agency, integration with existing budget plans and cycles, coordination with service provision, so overall integration of BCC with institutional plans and budgets is probably the number one key point that always needs to be kept in mind. This point around using local leaders, I forget if it was which group this came out of, but I think it's a really important point that there are political challenges when you're dealing with any type of institutionalisation and changes in political leadership. So using local level structures as a way of ensuring continuity of approach. On the SWEEP case, I think there are some in particular lessons around service level agreements, because SWEEP was a PPP with a contractual mechanism. So how can you build in BCC and the type of marketing strategies that are needed actually into those service level agreements, and place that conditional requirement on the service provider to conduct the BCC that's required. For many of the actors in this room, development of resources. So again, for SWEEP, there was the development of a marketing playbook, recognising that WSUP, I think it's fair to say, did most of the initial development of marketing materials, but of course we can't continue to provide that support, so the logic was to develop a playbook which then can be utilised by city corporations in adopting the model without WSUP's involvement. And then finally, really useful reflections on the requirement for cross-sectoral committees, engagement of ward, city, national level coordination committees and advisory committees. The question I honestly feel I don't have enough to answer, and I'd like to put back to the case study presenters, if that's okay. What are the evidence gaps? What remains in need to be further understood to advance effective BCC? So if that's not cheating in my role of summing up, I do want to ask that question, because I'd like to hear from you, because we've heard a lot about what works. Where are what we still consider the blind spots? Where is the evidence not there?
Thank you, Sam. Who wants to give it a go? To the third question. Go. I don't know where the mic is. Okay.
Yeah,
I think the third question was discussed a lot in our group. Yes, we developed an iterative, a campaign in an iterative way. We did, went through all the process, but definitely the rolling out at scale, right, across, like the state of Tamil Nadu has 649 cities and towns. So to effectively roll out the campaign in the way we envisioned, and obviously the government has to support to do that, and they have varying priorities. So taking the campaign to scale has definitely been a challenge, and we are continuously liaising the government to make that a reality. So what can we do to enable scale is something we are looking at and currently working on. So I think that remains to see the light, and let's see what happens. We'll keep all of you posted when the campaign rolls out in scale. Yeah.
The scale challenge remains unclear. Rajiv, what do you have?
I think in addition to the scale challenge, one is like one major challenge we see is the allocation of the resources, the identification of the resources required for this. So currently, as we said, like WSUP has been promoting SWEET together with the cities, and we have been promoting different framework approach. Kakaman, if we see in Tanzania, something MSMB campaign, then in Nepal, Clean Home campaign. So different campaigns have been designed together with them. But in terms of continuity, the resources required. So we cannot just let the city say, okay, now roll it out. So we still see the challenge in terms of capacity and resources, in terms of scale.
Thank you, Rajiv. Anybody else wants to contribute to pointing out what we don't know? 2 minutes left. So I guess if you can still bear with me, let's see what are your key insights. Now we go to the Mentimeter again. Okay, it's a different one. Looks the same, but it's different. I promise the questions are different. First one, from the group. What are your new insights for the design bit?
Can you go back to the QR code?
Sure.
The black bubble is preventing scanning the code.
There is a nasty black bubble. Okay. There are 4 people happy with the slide. That's good. Thank you. 6 people, 7 people, a lot of enthusiasm with this slide. Okay, what are people saying in terms of new insights for the design bit? What are you taking home with you today that is different? 1 minute. The very organized lady at the back. Thank you. Thank you. You need to surprise people to get their attention. That's a key takeaway for someone. Pre-campaign surveys and focus groups. Fun marketing, a strong idea. Community integrated sales promoters, the ABCDE framework. Monitoring process is key. Impact assessment must be built into campaign plans. Marketing experts involved in all levels. National strategy, get insights to behaviors directly from community. Coordination is critical. Understanding behaviors. Disaggregate the target groups. Involvement of local authorities to institutionalize. Context, context, context. Very good. So this was for the design. And now, what do you see as new opportunities for institutionalization, following what we discussed today, what you learned today? It's a tougher one. A serious room. A lot of silence. Integration into contract arrangements. It's a very interesting point indeed, yeah. Work through non-political actors, marketing and brand promotion, inclusion in institutional budgets, use of non-political local leaders. 4 new opportunities for institutionalization. Do I have a 5th? I do. Privatization of service provision, cohesion of ideas and clear delectation, co-design with local government and ensure budgets assigned, articulate different stakeholders around common objectives, BCC across users through service providers, scaling with services, integrate into existing campaigns, piggyback, performance target for relevant staff, time frameworks, cost share among partners, and public-private partnerships. And if you still have the patience, this is for our evaluation. This session, in a word. Thank you for helping us evaluate and do better next time. Illuminating, awesome, fun, engaging, customer-centric. We tailored it for you to your liking. Thank you for that. Doesn't get more BCC than that. Informative, creativity, useful, contextual, useful, flexible. Yep, that it was. We were supposed to do 2 rounds. We only did 1. It's called adaptive management. Marketing. 20 responses. Thank you all so very much. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as we enjoyed preparing it and delivering it.
How'd it go?
I think it went well.
Sorry about the interruption.
Not at all.